Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Collin Williams, Senior Director of Curriculum with RISE, and we are a national nonprofit that educates and empowers the sports community to end racism. We're here today with the Los Angeles Rams and a couple of players, right? Defensive backs, Robert, Rochell, and JuJu Hughes, who this Sunday are going to be wearing custom-made RISE cleats as a part of the NFL's My Cause My Cleats initiative. In order to support our mission of eliminating racial discrimination and championing social justice. Also with us right now, we've got Coach Cisco Saldana from MaCES High School. Entering the chat, here comes Coach Jacob Ochoa from Glendale High School. And these are local LA area coaches who can attest and speak to the ways in which the team is approaching and impacting social justice in the Los Angeles area, specifically through our joint community leadership program, Rise with the Rams, which unites high school football teams from diverse racial and socioeconomic backgrounds and empowers them to be leaders for racial justice and inclusion, right? So these coaches will have the ability to speak their experience in the program. Again, we've got Coach Cisco Saldana from MaCES. We've got Coach Jacob Ochoa from Glendale High School, and we've got Robert, Rochell, and JuJu Hughes. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into the conversation. And I'm going to start off with our Rams players, Robert and JuJu. So, fellas, you've chosen to wear RISE cleats this Sunday, right? Supporting our organization and our mission to use sports to end racism and champion social justice. I want to start by asking, why did you choose social justice as your cause for My Cause, My Cleats? How has racism impacted your life? And why is this important? Why is this issue important to you personally? Robert, JuJu, either of you can go first.
I feel like this is just a huge topic in this day and age. And, you just need sometimes you just need bigger voices to push and support things. And I stand behind what RISE stands for. I support everything about it because you see it day in and day out with racism and social injustice and problems in the communities. And I'm all about trying to shorten the gap in any situation to make it safer just all around. And just coming from a predominant Black area back home where there's a lot of things going on with racism and things of that nature back in my hometown that I have friends and family that have been a part of, but with the police and all those type of things. Just seeing that and knowing about that, and then this coming about with the shoes and having something to support was one of the reasons why I chose to wear those cleats and support RISE.
Awesome. Really, really appreciate that, Robert. Can you just remind us really quickly, where is home for you? You mentioned hometown.
Shreveport, Louisiana.
Shreveport, Louisiana. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay. JuJu, what about you?
Yeah, for me, RISE was big for me just because I think getting through to the youth about social injustice is a big thing. And I know RISE, they're kind of hitting it head on, going through the youth first, using us in our platform. I think is a big deal. Kind of like Robert was saying, just growing up, being through things back home and the area I'm from back home and stuff as well. In this day and age where racism and social injustices, I think it's just a big topic that needs to be discussed, and it's kind of uncomfortable conversation that needs to be had more often. And I think with our platform, it kind of eases that conversation. Everybody loves us for sports and stuff, but we kind of get them to listen when we talk about things of this nature. And I just know me personally, this is a big deal for me because I feel like I was a kid that could have been in trouble, anything like that going on back in the day. Like it's easy to get caught up in things, and if you don't talk about it and have these conversations, kids can get caught up in the wrong things, and social injustice and all this, being able to talk about it kind of just sets them in the right way, in the right area, I think, on the right path, especially hearing from guys in our platform, like I said.
Yeah, really appreciate that, JuJu. So a couple themes from what you both saying. One, some of your personal experiences coming from where you come, recognizing some of the issues that are pervasive today. You all sort of just felt that you can have an impact by using your platform to highlight some of these things that you support and that you're behind. And recognizing that, I like Juju, you talked about sort of young folks and that focus on young folks having sort of opportunities to discuss, to engage with one another, to engage across difference, right? So as you talk about that, because that was social justice more broadly, I want us to dive into one of sort of a longstanding program between Rise and the Rams, which is our program called Rise with the Rams that we've been working on since 2018, now 3 seasons deep, right? As we work together to address matters of racism, inclusivity, and social justice in the Los Angeles area. I would love for the coaches, Cisco and Jacob, if you can share a bit about sort of what's your experience with Rise with the Rams been like? How has it been engaging with people from diverse backgrounds? And what are perhaps some of the things that you as well as your student athletes, right, have learned as it pertains to racism, inclusivity, and injustice?
So fortunately, I grew up in an area that's predominantly Hispanic, but as I got older, I jumped into areas that were more diverse. So personally, I got to experience more diversity as I got older, which is something that I wanted as I got older, as I knew I wanted to go to college. And I said, I need this. I discovered that as, the 14-year-old. As far as the kids, I think it had a positive influence. It opened their eyes to a lot of things, because I think one of the biggest things that Rise taught these kids is a lot of things that seem just like normal are not right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think a lot of things you spoke about, Dr. Collins, was there are things that people say, that become kind of like, how do you say, they just become normal, like normal things that just a normal thing to say, and we don't think twice about the ramifications of what that can lead to. And you explained that, and I think that a lot of the kids talked about that. A lot of the kids that I had that went with us, they talked about like, wow, I've heard that my entire life, and I never thought about how that it's not normal. It's not a positive thing. I think, like one of the examples was the one you said, Black athletes are stronger. And then you mentioned how, more Black mothers are likely to die at giving childbirth. And it was a wow for me, and it was a wow for the kids. That's just one example, but there were many examples that you gave that were eye-opening, and I think it made them think. You planted a seed in their mind, and that's the biggest thing. You know what I'm saying? So now, maybe they don't think about it on a daily basis, but they'll always reflect on that experience.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach Saldana, right? I think, and just to open up the conversation so others can understand that example a little bit more, Coach is referring to an example of sort of Black mothers dying at 3 times the rate as white moms do during childbirth because of some of the biases that we have, some of the beliefs that we have, a lot of which stem from sports around sort of Black folks being more athletic, right? So even Black moms, as they're go through labor, doctors are taking that bias with them unintentionally and not seeking to be racist, not seeking to hurt, but having this disproportionate outcome, because when a Black mom says she's experiencing a level 5 of 10 as it pertains to pain, a white doctor may not be perceiving that the same way for a white mother, right? And having sort of those disparate outcomes. And while those things might seem normal, right, we then have to recognize that those things can be really damaging, and that those are the ramifications that Coach Saldana is talking about, right? So having young people sort of understand those and take a more critical lens to some of the things that they see all the time is important as we have these conversations about racism and as we think about how we change some of these systems. What about you, Coach Ochoa?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. Again, I'm very appreciative of this program, being part of it. We've had to have some tough conversations, not just through this RISE program, but just this year in general, with everything we faced, and whether it was, George Floyd, or whether, we have a heavy Armenian community here in Glendale, and the things that have happened with that, as a coach, we have to have those conversations. And I'm sure Robert and Juju, they get told to stay in their lane a lot. And as sometimes we just have to step out of the football conversations and have real life conversations, and use that platform, kind of like they said, and so this has been a great deal for us to be able to have these conversations with the players in this program. As a coach, we're constantly facing these things. I've had to coach players that, have had their father murdered in front of them, and players that have, lived meal to meal, don't know where their next meal is going to come from. And then you have, players with two parents and they're well off. And so you have all these diverse backgrounds and all these diverse situations that we have to try to bring together, and we have to try to find common grounds. It's just part of what we do on a day-to-day basis, not just here in LA, but around this area. And so, this was a great program to get some of those conversations going and for our players to learn even more about other players outside this area. I thought it was a great program, having Orange County schools and LA schools, and, just different backgrounds, different, players and different ways of growing up. And, I grew up in Highland Park, where there's a high gang murder rate. I probably saw more deaths than a young man should. And then, growing up and getting through it, trying to get my family in a different situation and not have to face some of those situations that I did when I was a kid. So I think it's just great. I think it's great what you're doing. I think it's great bringing this together, getting these conversations. We need more of them. And, I think at the end of the day, I'm very appreciative the Rams are part of this, and what it's doing for LA, what it's doing for the community. And here in Glendale, I just thought it was a great program all around, being able to have some of these tough conversations, and then hearing some of our players, what they've learned from it, what they've got from it, and then even talking to some of their teammates about it. I think it's been great all around. So we're happy that we were chosen part of this program.
Awesome. Really happy to hear that, Coach. So Robert, you specifically, I know that you've had the opportunity to join us for one of our virtual sessions. And I'm going to ask you first, but sort of open up the floor for others. And some of you talked about this, but want to just speak to it directly. Like, why is this important, right? Why is it important that high school athletes engage in these types of conversations and activities around social justice and inclusion? Why does this stuff even matter?
I just feel like it's very, very important for them right now, just to go and bridge the gap now, to be aware of other situations and other perspectives of life before you really approach those situations in life. Just here at the Rams, they have something they say it's like situational masters. It's like you master situations because you know what situations to expect. So me hearing that, when I got here, I start thinking about it like in other aspects of life. If I know a situation finna come, or I'm more aware of what's going on in my surroundings or what people I'm around, I will be more ready for the situation of what can happen or the outcome or just how you feel in the environment. And being able to bridge that gap early on and understand your friends and their background and what they have going on and what to expect outside in the world from social injustice and just racism in general, from being with other cultures and being with other people. I mean, that'll help out tremendously just from seeing it at a younger age to becoming an adult.
Robert, can you restate that phrase for me? I really like that. You said it was situational awareness.
Situational masters.
Mastery. Situational mastery. Right. That's an excellent
mastery. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's exactly what we're talking about, right? How do we sort of be prepared, understand what it's like to interact and work with people from different backgrounds, right? So when that situation shows up post high school, when I get to college, when I get to the workplace, when I become a coach like Cisco did, right? Yes. I better recognize what the space is and the opportunities that exist. But Juju, either coaches, anyone else want to add? Why is it important for these conversations to take place?
I personally just think it's big because like we didn't have these conversations when I was growing up. Like nobody ever came and talked to me and warned me or like educated me on situations and things of that sort. Like people had these conversations and understood situations of these sorts. Like I know a lot of situations I saw in my eyes growing up that would have went way different if somebody would have had this conversation with somebody or things like that. Like if people would have actually had these conversations, a lot of things could be different. And I think that's just the major thing for me, like wanting to get out and talk to kids and high school kids and just have them hear situations, have them have these conversations and be able to open up the floor to talk about. You know, people have been through a lot of things and you don't get to talk about stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh man, I think we just lost Juju, but I think we were all able to sort of to hear what the message he was trying to convey, just that he didn't have the opportunity to have those types of conversations. And overall, there's so many things that may have been avoided, right? If that understanding was there, if the space to create conversation, that makes a ton of sense. Coaches, and anything you all want to add?
Yeah, no, I think that hits the nail on the head, that the conversations is how change is going to happen.
Right.
You know, it's not on the social media when people are fighting back and forth. You know, that's not going to change it. It's the real conversation, and people getting them in the room of different backgrounds and, you know, different mentalities and all these different things, beliefs, getting them together and having a conversation is where that change is going to take place. And, you know, I mean, we're all guilty of, you know, we believe in something, but a lot of times you don't want to get involved. You know, you see it and it's like, hey, I don't, you know, I'm not going to say anything about this because I know where it's going to go. But when you get these conversations open up and the conversation starters and programs like this, where it's encouraged and you start talking about some of these things, then that's where real change takes place. So I think, you know, just promoting these kind of events over a lot of what we see, the negativity that's on social media and all that goes on, is where real change is going to happen. And real, you know, that's where we're going to make some progress in all of this. So I think it's great. I think we need more of this. And I think we need to promote more of these conversations for sure.
Awesome. So I got sort of one last question for you all, right? So we talked about social justice broadly, Robert and Juju, why you all are choosing to wear Rise cleats for My Cause My Cleats campaign up this coming Sunday. And we heard a bit about from Coach Cisco and Coach Jacob, right, about some of the what the experience was like in the program. But and we talked about in many ways the student athletes, right, and what these high schoolers have to gain and how they benefit from a program like this. But I want to ask a little bit about y'all now, right, from your position, right, as players, as coaches. How can your experience, right, in Rise with the Rams and engaging with Rise, how can that help you be a better leader as you think about advancing racial equity and social justice in your communities? What are some opportunities that it might provide you? How can you help create change is ultimately what I'm seeking to ask.
I think it's just by continuing the conversation, these conversations that we're having now, and spreading it with our youth, because, you know, they are the future. That, you know, as cliche as it is, they are the future. And if we can engage them and get them talking about it, then they can, you know, keep spreading it, and talk to other people. And you know how it is. I mean, there's people that don't want to hear it, and then there's people who do want to hear it. You know what I'm saying? But we can't. Hey, like you said, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't look at somebody and think, oh, he don't want to hear it. No, they all got to hear it. And you know, I've and a lot of the talks that I have with my kids have been my experiences. I don't know if you know this, Dr. Collins, but I've been a stand-up comedian for 18 years. And I've traveled across the country. I've traveled, I do English and Spanish. I've been across Mexico, and I've seen discrimination, racism in that business, not only here, but in other nations that I've been fortunate to visit, you know, and I use those experiences to talk to a lot of the kids and explain to them that there's a lot of things that you've got to overcome. You know, there's a lot of conversations that need to be had that don't want to be had. And that's the biggest problem.
Thanks for sharing, Coach. Any others?
Oh yeah. I just feel like it's just I better spread my experiences and things that I've went through as growing up, and that I didn't have anyone to tell me and be aware about situations and things of that nature that really go on, that you really don't think go on as a kid growing up coming through high school. But it's so much more out here to, you know, to see and get distracted by and get caught up in, and just of that nature, and giving me the space to be able to grow as myself, being intimate with the kids in the space of expressing how I feel about those subject. And you know, when you come to someone with real feelings and purity, you know, those things that you feel, those things that you feel that type of energy. So just being upright and honest with those guys, and with true communication, and let them know that it's not nothing easy, it's nothing good, but it takes change. You got to take steps at a time. Got to be all of us together, and that's just my goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. I think the program sort of formalizes the space to name and to make sense of some of these things, experiences that we've had that we sort of thought about individually, but perhaps didn't have the proper language, right? Or that diversity concept that puts it, that names it and helps us make sense of it. And that's what we seek to do with a lot of our programming. We have a late addition to the group, Coach Daniel Davidson from Western. Coach Davidson, because you're here, definitely want to engage you and bring you into the conversation. The question that I would throw your way is, how has your experience with Rise with the Rams help you think about being a leader in terms of creating change around social justice, or what ways have you seen your student athletes sort of benefit from the program?
I think Rochell was hitting on it. It's like everyone has this, what they believe is going on, and there's not enough people that are truly outreaching to these young people to allow them opportunities to be seen and to be heard. And you just heard the one coach talking about we cause problems when we start bringing these things up on our campuses because of these young guys being stereotyped. And I fight that as a daily basis here at Western High School. And that's why I wanted to be a part of the Rams Rise community. And for you to bring in 10 of our guys, for them to see that it's okay to fight for what they are and who they believe and how they can be outspoken, I believe this is tremendous. So every day we live this, and they're sharing of what you shared with us and what they were talking about inside of our group meetings. I hope you understand that.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Coach Davidson. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us, right? So as we wrap up, y'all, I really want to say thank you all for taking the time out of your days to convene and for us to get into this conversation, right? Again, we had Robert Rochell and JuJu Hughes from the Rams. We had Coach Cisco Saldana from MaCES, Coach Jacob Ochoa from Glendale, and Coach Daniel Davidson from Western. I'm Collin Williams on behalf of Rise. Really appreciate Robert and JuJu, all the work that you all are doing in the community, but coaches, as the work that you all are doing as well, leading your young athletes, helping them have these conversations to lean into some of the discomfort. And Coach Davidson, I really appreciated that last piece around the ways in which even the student athletes that aren't a part of Rise with the Rams directly, right? Because there's only so much space and so much size, that they're taking these messages back to their communities, right? That they're taking it to the rest of their football team, and that those football teams are being beacons of light in your various communities across the Los Angeles area. So thanks again for all that you do. Thanks for taking some time for talking to us. And then JuJu and Robert, go out there and kill it this weekend as you represent Rise for My Cause, My Cleats. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your evening.